Long ago, in the eastern heartlands of Igboland, a respected woman known as Queen Isabel lived. The villagers often saw her wandering toward the sacred river Omiala. She loved the calmness of the waters, the whisper of the breeze, and the ancient spirit that lingered there. It was her place of peace, but on this particular day, something stirred in the wind. Queen Isabel was heavy with child, 9 moons had passed, and the time was near. She sat by the riverbank, watching the sunlight dance on the water, when a sudden bolt of pain gripped her. She cried, clutching her belly. Her voice echoed through the forest, "Help me, oh, somebody help me," but no voice answered. No soul stirred. Alone, with sweat on her brow and pain ripping through her, she fell to the red earth, and there beside the river Omiala, Queen Isabel gave birth. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. When the child finally came forth, she gasped for air, her limbs trembling. She looked upon her newborn, expecting the joy of motherhood to rise in her chest. But her eyes widened in disbelief. The baby was white, not light-skinned like a fair Fulani or Lebanese merchant. No, the child's skin was as white as Enzu, sacred chalk used by priests. Queen Isabel trembled. How, she whispered, how can this be? She and her husband, King Oba, were of the deepest hue, the kind of skin that shone like polished ebony. There was no explanation. Her heart pounded. Fear knotted in her throat. The king will never believe me, she thought. He will accuse me of betrayal. He might even kill me. King Oba was known across the region not just for his wealth, but his pride. A man of fire. No one dared anger him, not even his beloved queen. Tears fell freely from Queen Isabel's face. Her hands trembled as she held the child. "I cannot take you back to the palace," she whispered. "You will not survive." With a heart heavy as a mourning drum, Queen Isabel wrapped the baby in a soft white asso oak cloth and walked toward the river. The waters were gentle, as if waiting. She whispered, "May the river spirit protect you, my son. I am sorry. Forgive me." Then, with trembling hands, she placed him in a woven reed basket and let the current carry him. As the baby floated away, Queen Isabel turned, wiped her tears, and disappeared into the forest. But she could not return to the palace with an empty womb. So, she traveled in secret to the edge of the kingdom, to a small orphanage run by a wise old Ayah Akbar, a woman known for helping barren women and broken hearts. "Please," Queen Isabel begged. "I need a baby. I will give you anything. But you must promise, no one must know I was here." The old woman nodded gently and handed her a healthy dark-skinned baby boy. Queen Isabel embraced him with trembling arms and returned to the palace. There was jubilation in the kingdom. The drums of Atalogwu were beaten, Ikwano-jin rang through the courtyards. King Oba smiled broadly, proud to behold his son. They named the child Obina, meaning father's heart. But Queen Isabel, though smiling, carried a river in her eyes. Her secret was safe, for now, but secrets are like fire in dry Harmattan, they do not hide forever. As for the baby left in the river, the waters grew troubled. The child cried, tiny hands reaching for a mother already gone. The basket tipped. He began to sink, but then the river stirred. From beneath its depths, a being of shimmering beauty appeared. Her skin was the color of sea foam, her tail shining like the full moon. She was Queen Mawu, ruler of the Mermaid Kingdom, hidden beneath the sacred waters. She swept through the current and caught the baby just in time. Who would abandon such a precious child? She murmured, I scanning the riverbank, but no one came. Moved by compassion, Queen Mawu cradled the baby. "Then you are mine now," she said and kissed his forehead. The kiss shimmered like moonlight. The baby gasped, then exhaled, then his feet shimmered, turning into a silver fish tail. He had transformed. "You are one of us now," she said. She named him Kwame, which means praise. But the kingdom would know him as Prince Kwame of the Waters. He grew up under the loving eye of Queen Mawu, alongside her daughter, the kind-hearted and brave Princess Adama. She loved Kwame as a brother, playing with him, teaching him the language of currents and sea creatures, and something wondrous began to happen. Imobendu changed. Coral reefs glowed like living fire, sea plants danced in rhythm, and the very water pulsed with new life. The mermaids whispered, "It is the boy, he brings light to the deep." As the years passed, Prince Kwame grew swift, strong, and wise. He became the fastest swimmer, the most skilled in underwater combat, and the joy of the kingdom. Meanwhile, back in the palace of King Oba, Obina grew proud and arrogant, his father's son in every way. Queen Isabel kept her secret buried like a calabash at the foot of a sacred tree. No one knew, but King Oba carried a longing in his spirit. One evening, as the Akuru bird sang in the distance, Queen Isabel approached the king. "My lord, you seem troubled. Is one child not enough?" King Oba looked into the horizon. "I wait for someone." Queen Isabel's heart skipped. "Who?" "My king." He turned, his face cold. "This is not for a woman to question. Return to your chamber." She bowed. "Yes, "My king," but her heart beat like a talking drum. What if he knows? What if the child I left in the river is the one he waits for? The thought made her chest tighten. For 15 long years, Queen Isabel had buried the memory deep in her soul, the memory of the baby she had abandoned at the sacred river. She had told herself to forget. She had worn a crown of silence. But now the past was clawing its way back, like a spirit refused rest, and in the depths of her spirit, a terrible whisper began to rise. What if the child lived? What if the king, the very one whose rage she feared, was searching for the son she cast away, far away in the palace? Prince Obinna, the child she brought home in place of the one she left behind, was growing into a mirror of his father. Strict, proud, arrogant. The people of the kingdom avoided his path like dry leaves from a sacred tree. They blamed King Oba for what the boy had become, and yet none dared speak, for fear wrapped the palace like vines around an ancient shrine. That night, Queen Isabel sat alone in her chamber. The palace was still, but her thoughts screamed. She closed her eyes, and suddenly, she was back by the river, the cries of the newborn echoing through the trees, the water gently pulling the reed basket away. She clutched her chest. Did he survive? Did someone find him? Could he still be alive? Then, a more terrifying thought crept in like a snake through dry grass. What if he is the one the king is waiting for? She gasped. Her body trembled, for the decision she made to protect herself had now returned like a curse, and it threatened to destroy everything. That same night, King Oba could not sleep. He paced the royal chambers like a lion disturbed. His mind boiled with questions. A shadow hung over him, not of battle, but of something greater. He had been reading the ancient scrolls, sacred texts kept by the ancestors of Oba Kingdom, and what he found unsettled his spirit. Every 200 years, the god sent a child to the kingdom, a child not born of flesh alone, but touched by the heavens. This child, always with skin as white as Enzu, the sacred chalk of the gods, was a divine gift. He brought fortune, peace, protection. No enemy dared strike the kingdom while the child lived within its walls, and it had now been exactly 200 years since the last one walked the earth. Why have I not seen this child during my reign? The king asked himself, fists clenched. Meanwhile, Queen Isabel shook with dread. She had overheard whispers of the king calling the chief priest for answers. Her secret, the one she buried like a good under sacred earth, was now rattling to the surface. What if they find out? What will happen to me? By morning, the chief priest, a wise and feared elder with a voice that could calm spirits, entered the king's chambers. He lit sacred herbs, and the scent of burning ogericei leaves filled the air. Smoke curled like spirits rising from the earth. His chants echoed as he called upon the gods. The room fell into a silence thick as palm oil. Then, he opened his eyes. "Your Majesty," the priest began, voice deep and sure. "The child has been born." King Oba's brow furrowed. "What do you mean has been born? I have not seen such a child in my house." "The gods have spoken clearly," the priest said. "The child was born 15 years ago. He lives, but he is not with you." The king's face darkened. "Who dares keep this child from me?" he bellowed. "Who has stolen the god's gift?" The priest remained calm. "The gods have given, but now it is up to you to find him." In her chamber, Queen Isabel trembled. She felt the walls closing in, the very walls of the palace she had once called her refuge. That evening, the king summoned her. She entered his chambers slowly. Her feet felt heavy, her spirit weak. The king's eyes were sharp and piercing. "Sit down," he ordered. She sat a day. Her hands trembled as she folded them in her lap. "Does he know?" she thought. "Has he found out about the child?" The king leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. "The baby you gave birth to, was he like the one in the prophecy?" Queen Isabel froze, then nodded slowly. "Yes, my king." But her hand shook. Her eyes wouldn't meet his. Her voice trembled. The king narrowed his eyes. "You are lying." "I'm not, my king," she whispered. He slammed his palm on the wooden table with thunderous rage. "Speak the truth." Queen Isabel broke. Tears streamed down her face. Her voice cracked like dry harmattan leaves. She confessed. She told him of the white-skinned child, of her fear that he would never accept him, of the basket, of the river, of the day she walked away and left the god's gift behind. The king's face twisted with fury. "You abandoned a child sent by the gods. You threw away our kingdom's fortune. You betrayed me and the land." The chief priest stepped forward. "My king," he said carefully, "what she did was wrong, but she acted from fear. Fear of your wrath. The whole kingdom walks on eggshells beneath your fire. Fear of me." Or the king roared. "You dare defend her?" The priest bowed. "And you'll join her punishment," the king shouted. The priest fell silent. The king ordered a search party to be sent to the river where the child had been abandoned. They combed the banks, questioned the birds, listened to the wind, but after hours, there was nothing. The waters were calm. The river held her secrets tightly. The king cursed. "How could a child survive here for 15 years? The chief priest closed his eyes, hands to the sky. "He is not dead, your majesty," he said. "His spirit is strong, but he is no longer of this world." The king turned slowly. "Explain." "The mermaids, the priest said. He was taken by the spirits beneath the water. The king's face darkened again. Then I will go to war with the waters if I must. He stormed back to the palace, his rage boiling over. As for Queen Isabel, the king gave his final order: lock her in the palace dungeon. Let her stay there until I decide her fate. The queen was dragged away, tears streaking her face like the rainfall of Harmattan. For 15 long years, she had lived with a secret that burned her heart in silence. But now, everything had come crashing down like a thunderstorm on the roofs of Umwaria. The king, Oba Uju, heart hardened like ironstone, ordered that Prince K with a Q-tail be locked away in the same prison as his mother. The palace was in uproar. Whispers floated like Harmattan dust in the air. But the prince is innocent, some muttered. Yet, no one dared raise their voice. The people already knew Oba Uju as a heartless king, quick to rage, slow to reason, boiling with fury. The king summoned his personal advisors. They entered his chambers slowly, their steps hesitant, eyes avoiding his. Fear gripped them like cold chains. Everyone knew the king's temper. Words had to be chosen like eggs carried across a rocky path. For no matter their advice, the king always did what pleased him. Oba Uju sat on his ivory-carved throne, fists clenched tight like a coiled python. "The mermaids have my son," he bellowed, his voice shaking the gold-painted walls. "How dare they keep him from me? If they do not return him, I shall bring war to their waters." One of the elders, grey-bearded and wise, stepped forward carefully. "Your Majesty," he said, voice soft like river wind, "please consider. The mermaids saved the child. Without them, he would have been lost forever. Let us ask for his return, with peace, not pride." The king's eyes narrowed, but he gave a short nod. "Fine," he growled. "We shall ask, but they must obey." He grabbed a royal scroll and began to write. His quill moved like a storm, his face twisted in anger. When he finished, he read aloud, "To the water spirits who hold my son, you have 3 days to return the prince of our kingdom. If you do not, I will rain fire upon your river palace, Oba Uju, King of Ar." Another advisor, brave yet trembling, stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said cautiously, "perhaps the message sounds harsh. Maybe a softer tone would." "Silence!" the king roared, slamming his fist onto the table. The ground seemed to tremble. "You are my advisor, not my master. I speak, and you obey." The advisor bowed deeply. "Yes, your Majesty." Oba Uju rolled up the scroll, sealed it in a glass bottle, and called for his river messenger. "Take this to the river of spirits. Deliver it to the mermaids." The messenger bowed low and left swiftly. When he reached the riverbank, he pulled out a sacred flute carved from the bones of a river eel. He blew gently. A haunting, high-pitched melody floated over the water. Then, he tossed the bottle into the river and vanished. Minutes passed. Then, deep beneath the shimmering surface, a group of mermaids swam past. One saw the bottle and picked it up. "What is this?" she asked, her silver tail glimmering. "It's from the humans," another replied. "We must take it to Queen Maria." They swam like swift fish to the underwater kingdom, where coral palaces stood tall and jellyfish lamps lit the halls. They entered the royal chamber and handed the bottle to their queen, Maria the Wise, ruler of the river realm. Queen Maria opened the scroll with careful fingers. As she read, her brow furrowed, her lips pressed tight. "What an arrogant, ungrateful king," she muttered. "He dares command me, not ask. Even if he begged on his knees, I would never return Ka with a Q-tail." She tore the scroll in two. The pieces floated downward like feathers, lost in the currents. Unbeknownst to her, young Ka with a Q-tail had been watching. His pale skin shimmered under the glowing coral light. He stepped forward, voice calm but resolute. "Oh mother," he said. "Who sent that letter?" Queen Maria turned quickly, surprised. "Ka with a Q-tail," she breathed. "How long have you been here?" "I saw everything," he replied. "Who was it from? What did it say?" Queen Maria swam closer, gently cupping his face. "It was from a human king," she whispered. "He claims you are his son." Ka with a Q-tail blinked. "His son? That can't be. I've never even seen him. How can he be my father?" The queen's voice softened. 15 years ago, I found you floating in the river, a crying infant, barely wrapped, sinking beneath the waves. I saved you, raised you as my own. Since that day, you've been part of this family." Ka with a Q-tail's heart ached. If I was his son, why was I abandoned? Queen Maria's eyes grew misty. "I do not know, but I know this: you are loved here. You are my son, and nothing will change that." He stood silent, emotion swirling like the tides. Then he spoke. "I don't want to leave. This is my home. You are my mother." Queen Maria smiled and embraced him. Just then, Princess Decca swam in, her face filled with worry. She'd overheard it all. "You're not leaving," she cried, hugging him tight. "You're my brother. You belong here." Ka with a Q-tail hugged her back. "I'm not going anywhere. This is my family." Queen Maria's heart swelled with love, but also dread. She knew Oba Uju would not rest. A storm was brewing. The third day, as the sun sank in the west, painting the sky in blood red and gold, both realms prepared. In the water, mermaids readied their spears, their eyes solemn. On land, Oba Uju donned his gleaming armor, walking to the river with an army of dark magic soldiers behind him. The river rippled. Queen Maria rose from the water, her presence like a rising tide. Silence fell. The world seemed to hold its breath. "This is your last chance," Oba Uju shouted. "Return, my son, or I will destroy everything you hold dear." Queen Maria's voice was calm, but sharp like a blade. "You speak of a son you threw away. Without me, he would be nothing but river dust. You command me? You should thank me." The king's pride boiled. "Enough of your words. I will take him by force." "Then let it be between us," she said. "Let no innocent die for our pride." Oba Uju drew his sword. Queen Maria stepped onto the riverbank. Her tail shimmered and split into human legs. She pulled her own blade, long, curved, glowing with the light of river spirits. The fight began. Their swords clashed like thunder. Sparks flew. The king struck fast and hard. Queen Maria faltered. "The queen is losing." The mermaids whispered, fear rippling. But then, Queen Maria began to shine. Her strength surged. Her blade danced like lightning. "It's Ka with a cute L," the healer murmured. "His spirit gift is flowing to her. The boy's true magic is now hers." Queen Maria pushed the king back until her blade rested against his throat, but she did not strike. "I came to protect, not destroy," she said. Oba Uju, humiliated, stepped back. Then, he began to chant. His voice grew dark and ancient. He drew a red cloth and tied it around his arm. The sky darkened. Something wicked had been awakened. A dark light began to glow around King Uja. The air around him shimmered with power. His strength surged, like the rising tides of the river Niger in rainy season. With a fierce roar, he charged at Queen Mary once again. Their swords clashed, metal against metal, spirit against spirit. Sparks flew into the air like fireflies. This time, King Uja was no longer weak. His strength matched the queen's. He moved like a lion in battle, his eyes full of rage. He slashed at her, and his blade cut her arm. Blood dripped down, but Queen Mary did not fall. She clenched her jaw, her face burning with determination, and fought on like a true daughter of the Delta. The king saw his chance. He lifted his sword high, ready to strike at her neck. The battle could end in a single moment. But then, a voice boomed across the river. "Stop!" It was not just a shout. It was a command. The ground shook. The wind stilled. Even the birds in the trees held their breath. The king's sword froze in midair. Humans and mermaids alike turned their eyes toward the river. From the water, Callow emerged. His body glowed with a holy light, brighter than the morning sun. As he stepped onto the riverbank, his powerful tail transformed into human legs. He stood tall, not as a boy, but as a prince born of two worlds. His voice was calm, but unshakable. "This fight ends now." The ground trembled beneath his feet. King Uja's soldiers stepped back in fear. Even the waves seemed to bow before him. Callow stood straight, his eyes glowing with strength and truth. The river was quiet, and the air still. All eyes were on him. He spoke again. "I can't believe someone like you is my father," he said. "Thank the gods I wasn't raised by you." King Uja's face darkened with fury. "How dare you speak to me like that?" he shouted. "I am your father." But Callow didn't flinch. "Father or not, you must hear the truth. Your pride will be your downfall. You do not know how to say a please. You do not know how to say thank you. And you certainly don't know how to say I'm sorry. These three simple words could end wars, but you choose war, even if innocent people must die." The king's fists clenched, his voice a low growl. "You are but a child. I have lived thrice your years. My wisdom is beyond you. Join me. Together, we will destroy these mermaids." Callow's eyes narrowed. "Even old fools can grow grey hairs," he replied. "Not all advice from an elder is wise. You speak of wisdom, yet you rule with pride and fear." King Uja roared, his voice echoing like thunder. "So you wish to fight your own blood?" But Callow shook his head. "I am not fighting. The queen is. I am ending it." He turned, walked calmly to Queen Mary, who lay wounded, and knelt beside her. His glowing hands hovered over her injuries. Light poured from his fingers, and her wounds healed instantly. Queen Mary rose, her strength renewed. Her eyes blazed like the stars. She turned toward the king. King Uja, seeing his power slipping, rushed at her again, sword raised. But she was faster. Her blade danced like lightning. With ease, she dodged, then struck. Blow after blow shattered his armor and pierced his pride. Desperate, the king turned to his warriors. "End them," he cried. "Kill every mermaid. Poison the river. Leave no one alive." But something happened. His soldiers stood still, their swords lowered. Then, one by one, they dropped their weapons. They turned to Callow and bowed. Their loyalty had shifted. They had always feared the king. But now, with the river prince standing tall, they found their courage. The king's eyes widened. "You traitors!" he screamed. "You dare defy me?" But his men stood silent. Callow had become the king of their hearts. In blind rage, Uja lunged again at Queen Mary. But her blade was a river's vengeance. She struck with speed and precision. Blood stained his robes. The mighty king stumbled backward. Queen Mary stood over him, sword raised high. The battlefield went still. For the first time, fear crept into the king's proud eyes. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. The words hung heavy in the air. Queen Mary paused. Her glowing sword pointed at his neck. Her eye searched his. Then, she stepped back. That's it, she said. Did those words take anything from you? She reached out and helped him to his feet. The king, bleeding and broken, stood in silence. He looked around, the soldiers, the mermaids, his son, and he saw what he had become. He bowed his head deeply. I am sorry. I was blinded by pride. Please, forgive me. The battlefield was silent. Then, slowly, Queen Mary nodded. Prince Callow stepped forward. I forgive you, he said, but let this be a lesson. True power is not in pride, but in kindness. The mermaids returned to the river, their tails sparkling in the sunlight. The humans laid down their swords. Peace returned like a long-lost friend. Back at the palace, Queen Offie and Prince Orin were freed. When the queen saw her son, tears poured from her eyes. She fell to her knees. Forgive me, my son. I was afraid. I made a terrible mistake. Callow lifted her gently. Mother, he said, stand. I've already forgiven you. These moments have brought me nothing but joy. The king shaved his head as a symbol of humility, and with his new look, he appeared even more regal. The palace filled with peace for the first time in years. He gathered everyone, his family, advisors, priests, and soldiers. I was wrong, he said. I ruled with cruelty, but from now on, I will lead with kindness. Please, forgive me. The people accepted his apology. Even those who once feared him opened their hearts. Queen Mary returned to the sea, but a deep peace remained between both worlds. Prince Orin was never sent back to the orphanage. He was adopted into the royal family and became a true brother to Callow. The kingdom changed. King Uja ruled with wisdom and gentleness, and was remembered as one of the kindest rulers in the land's history. Prince Callow often visited the Mermaid Kingdom, where he was beloved, and in his father's palace, he became a guide and a light. Years passed. The king grew old, and the day came when he handed the crown to Callow. As king, Callow's first act was to ban dark magic forever. He ruled with truth and compassion, and both the land and the river flourished under his leadership. His story became legend, told under moonlight, around fires, and passed down through generations. Pride and arrogance may give the illusion of strength, but they lead to ruin. True power lies in humility, kindness, and the courage to say the simplest words, I am sorry, please, and thank you. These words mend broken hearts, end battles, and build nations. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts. Subscribe to African Folktale Magic for more timeless stories.